All right, so get ready because today we're going to dive into a proposed solution to a really complex problem.
Yeah.
Immigration reform in the U.S. Specifically, we're looking at this dignity plan that everyone's talking about.
Right.
And we're using a breakdown video from U.S. Immigration News on YouTube as our guide.
I saw that one.
Yeah, they did a pretty good deep dive, and
Yeah.
we're going to go even deeper.
All right.
It's got big names attached like Donald Trump
Oh, wow.
and Maria Elvira Salazar.
Interesting.
And it claims to have answers for millions of people living in the U.S. without legal status.
Yeah, it's really intriguing that this plan is getting attention from both sides of the aisle.
Right.
Which is pretty rare for anything related to immigration.
Yeah, usually it's just a political tug-of-war.
Exactly.
But before we get into the plan itself,
Okay.
I think it's important to set the stage.
Yeah.
We're talking about millions of people living in a constant state of uncertainty, unable to fully participate in society because of their legal status.
Yeah.
It's a situation with huge human consequences.
Exactly. And historically, attempts to address this have been met with fierce debate
Oh, yeah.
and often resulted in, well, let's just say less than ideal outcomes.
Yeah. There's a lot of baggage there.
For sure.
Think back to the Brewstrow program,
All right.
which started with good intentions,
Yeah.
but ended up exploiting workers. So how does the Dignity Plan try to be different?
Well, the Dignity Plan tries to strike a balance.
Okay.
It aims to provide a degree of stability and recognition for undocumented immigrants,
Okay.
while addressing concerns about security and accountability.
Okay.
The core of it is the creation of a new category called dignity status.
Okay. So dignity status.
Yeah,
It sounds nice,
right.
but what does it actually mean?
It's not a direct path to citizenship,
Okay.
which is a key point.
Right.
It's more of a middle ground. Think of it as a way to acknowledge the contributions of those who've built lives in the U.S.
Okay.
without immediately granting them full citizenship.
So it's like a conditional acceptance.
Yeah, you could say that.
But what are the conditions?
Right.
What do you have to do to qualify for this dignity status?
There are several requirements.
Okay.
First, you need to have lived in the U.S. for at least 5 years.
5 years.
Then you have to have a clean criminal record, prove you've been paying taxes,
Okay.
and agree to pay restitution.
Restitution.
We're talking about a $5,000 payment spread out over 7 years.
That's a pretty hefty chunk of change.
Yeah, it is.
I'm guessing that's meant to address concerns about undocumented immigrants being a burden on the system.
Exactly. The plan is very deliberate in highlighting that this is not a free pass.
Okay.
There are also regular check-ins with authorities and a requirement to maintain a good reputation in the community.
Okay.
It's all designed to show that this is about taking responsibility and contributing to society.
But let's say you meet all these requirements.
No.
Or you get this dignity status. What does that actually get you?
It gives you the legal right to work, move freely within the U.S.
Okay.
and even travel abroad.
Wow.
Imagine for the first time being able to visit family in your home country without fear of not being able to return.
Yeah, that's huge.
But it's important to remember, you're not a citizen.
Right.
You're in this in-between space.
Right. And it seems like the plan acknowledges that some people might want to go further.
Yeah.
They might want to aim for full citizenship. So how does that work?
That's where redemption status comes into play.
Redemption status?
It's the next level.
Okay.
The potential stepping stone to citizenship. But it's not easy.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit.
Sure.
What does it take to reach this redemption status?
It builds on the requirements for dignity status.
Okay.
You have to complete the entire dignity program, which means fulfilling all the conditions we talked about earlier.
All those requirements.
On top of that, you need to demonstrate English proficiency, engage in community service, and you guessed it,
Another fee.
pay another $5,000 in restitution.
So it's like a double down on proving your commitment.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they chose the word redemption.
It's a loaded term, for sure. It implies that there's something to be redeemed from,
Right.
which might rub some people the wrong way.
Yeah, I can see how that framing could be problematic.
Definitely.
It feeds into the narrative that undocumented immigrants are somehow inherently guilty or need to atone for something.
Right. And that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
This language is likely a strategic choice to appease certain political factions by framing it as redemption.
Yeah.
The plan's proponents are trying to make it more palatable to those who might otherwise be resistant to any form of immigration reform.
It's a political tightrope walk, isn't it?
It is.
Trying to balance the needs of undocumented immigrants
with
the political realities of getting something like this passed.
Absolutely. And that brings us to a crucial question.
Okay.
Does this plan actually stand a chance?
That's a good question.
I mean, we've seen plenty of immigration reform attempts crash and burn in the past.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
So is this time different?
We'll see.
Does the Dignity Plan have what it takes to actually become law?
Right.
And if it does, what does that mean for the millions of people it's supposed to help?
Those are the million-dollar questions.
Yeah.
We're about to dig into that, but first, let's take a quick pause.
Okay.
When we come back, we'll explore the potential consequences of this plan,
Okay.
both the good and the bad.
All right.
We'll also look at whether it truly lives up to its name
Okay.
and offers a pathway to a more dignified life.
Right. Sounds good.
Stay with us.
Okay, so we've laid out the basics of the Dignity Plan. It's this multi-tiered system, lots of requirements, a long road to potential citizenship.
Right.
But let's shift gears a little bit and look at what this actually means for the people involved.
Yeah.
Is this truly a path to a more dignified life,
Okay.
as the name suggests?
That's where the analysis gets really interesting.
Okay.
On the one hand, it's hard to deny that this plan offers a level of stability and security
Yeah.
that's currently missing for millions.
Right.
Imagine the relief of being able to work legally,
Yeah.
travel without fear,
Right.
contribute openly to your community.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It's like finally being able to exhale,
Yeah.
right? No more looking over your shoulder.
Yeah.
No more living in the shadows.
Precisely. And remember that emphasis on restitution and self-sufficiency.
Yeah.
It's not just about appeasing critics, it's about shifting the narrative.
Okay.
Instead of being seen as a burden,
Right.
these individuals are actively demonstrating their commitment to being contributing members of society.
But as some people might push back and say,
Yeah.
hold on, isn't this creating a second-class system? I mean, you're granted certain rights,
Right.
but you're still denied full citizenship.
Yeah.
That feels like a pretty big caveat.
You're hitting on a crucial point.
Okay.
The lack of a direct path to citizenship for those with dignity status raises some serious questions about equity.
Yeah.
Is this truly just? Or is it perpetuating a form of permanent limbo?
Right.
It's something critics are definitely grappling with.
And let's not forget the financial burden.
Yeah.
$5,000 is a significant barrier to entry for many.
Right?
And then there's another $5,000.
Exactly.
If you want to pursue redemption status.
Yeah,
That's a lot of money.
it is.
Especially for folks who are already struggling.
It's a cost-benefit analysis
Right.
that each individual will have to weigh carefully.
Yeah.
The plan's supporters argue that the long-term benefits, the stability, the peace of mind, far outweigh the initial costs.
Okay.
But it's naive to think that this financial hurdle won't create hardship for some.
Okay, so let's play devil's advocate for a moment.
Right.
Let's say this plan does become law.
Okay.
What are some potential downsides, some unintended consequences that we might see down the road?
That's where we need to look beyond the immediate impact and consider the broader implications.
Right.
One concern is that the Dignity Plan could actually disincentivize legal immigration.
Okay, how so?
If there's a seemingly easier path to legal status, even if it's not full citizenship,
Correct.
why go through the lengthy and often expensive process of legal immigration?
Right. That makes sense. And you mentioned historical precedents earlier.
Yeah.
Could this end up being another Bracero program situation?
It's possible.
Where good intentions pave the way for exploitation?
It's a valid concern.
Okay.
The Dignity Plan relies heavily on employer compliance.
Okay.
There's a risk that some employers might take advantage of the situation, knowing that these individuals are in a precarious position and might be more willing to accept lower wages or poor working conditions out of fear of jeopardizing their status.
So it's a potential minefield, ethically speaking.
Yeah.
And even if everything goes according to plan, there's the question of implementation. Can the government actually manage this new system effectively?
Right.
Will it be accessible?
Yeah.
Efficient? Will it truly deliver the promised dignity and stability?
That's a huge unknown.
Yeah.
And it's not just about logistics, it's about perception.
Right.
How will this plan be received by the public?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Will it reduce the stigma surrounding undocumented immigrants? Or will it reinforce negative stereotypes?
We're talking about a fundamental shift in how we as a society view immigration and belonging.
For sure.
It's bound to spark some intense debate.
Definitely.
And honestly, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
We need to have these conversations, even if they're uncomfortable.
Absolutely. The Dignity Plan, regardless of whether it becomes law, has already started a crucial conversation.
Okay.
It's forcing us to confront the complexities of immigration,
Yeah.
to look beyond the statistics and see the human stories, and to grapple with our own beliefs about what it means to be American.
It's not just about policy, it's about values.
Yeah, exactly.
It's about who we are as a nation. And that brings us to a question for you, our listener.
Okay.
What kind of future do we want to create?
That's a good one.
Are we a country that welcomes and embraces those who contribute, regardless of their path? Or do we hold on to rigid systems that perpetuate fear and uncertainty?
It's a question worth pondering because the decisions we make today, the conversations we have now, will shape not only the lives of millions of immigrants, but the very fabric of our society for generations to come.
Wow, it really is a lot to think about.
Yeah, for sure.
We've gone from the nuts and bolts of this plan to some pretty profound questions about our national identity.
Yeah, and that's what makes this whole conversation so fascinating.
Right.
It's not just about immigration policy. It's about who we are as a nation and what we value.
You know, it reminds me of a quote I read recently from a sociologist who was talking about immigration. They said, every immigration debate is ultimately a debate about ourselves, about the kind of society we want to be.
That's spot on.
Yeah.
And the Dignity Plan, whether it succeeds or fails, forces us to confront those fundamental questions.
For sure.
It asks us to look in the mirror and decide what kind of reflection we want to see.
Do we want to see a country that's open and welcoming, that recognizes the contributions of everyone who calls this place home? Or do we want to see a country that's closed off, fearful, and divided?
It's a choice we all have to make, both individually and collectively. And it's a choice that has real consequences, not just for immigrants, but for all of us.
Yeah, I think that's an important takeaway from this whole deep dive.
Definitely.
It's easy to get caught up in the details of the plan, the requirements, the political maneuvering. But at the end of the day, it's about something much bigger.
It's about the kind of society we want to live in, the kind of legacy we want to leave for future generations.
Exactly. And as we wrap up this deep dive into the Dignity Plan, we want to leave you with one final thought.
All right, I'm ready.
It's not enough to just understand the mechanics of this plan. We need to engage in thoughtful, nuanced conversations about the values and principles that underpin it.
For sure.
We need to listen to diverse perspectives, challenge our own assumptions, and be willing to grapple with the complexities of this issue.
It's not easy, but it's important.
Because ultimately, the future of immigration in this country is not just about laws and policies. It's about who we are as a people. And on that note, we want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope it sparks some curiosity, some critical thinking, and maybe even some healthy debate.
For sure.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks for coming.
Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel US Immigration News. We hope you are doing great. Well, in today's video, we will be talking about visa immigration reform on the horizontal pathways to legal status for undocumented immigrants. The Dignity Plan introduced by Republican Congressman Maria Elvira Salazar with support from former President Donald Trump is an immigration reform proposal aimed at providing legal status to millions of undocumented immigrants in the US. The bill introduced in March 2021 offers a pathway to legal recognition through a defined status called dignity status for undocumented individuals who have lived in the US for at least 5 years. This status would allow them to live and work legally without fear of deportation, offering relief to millions who have lived in the shadow for decades. The Dignity Plan has received significant bipartisan support, making it a notable proposal in the ongoing immigration reform debate. However, it does not grant full citizenship to immigrants, but instead creates a pathway to legal status, offering an alternative to current immigration policies. The bill is designed to balance providing a legal solution for undocumented immigrants while requiring them to meet certain conditions. To qualify for dignity status, immigrants must undergo criminal background checks, pay taxes, and settle any financial debt. Additionally, they are required to pay $5,000 in restitution over 7 years and maintain a good reputation in their community. Immigrants must also communicate regularly with the Department of Homeland Security to confirm compliance with the program. Importantly, the bill does not provide access to federal benefits, ensuring that immigrants in the program contribute to the economy without becoming a public burden. The Dignity Plan includes two potential paths to legal status: dignity status and redemption status. Dignity status allows individuals to live, work, and travel freely in the US for 5 years with the possibility of renewal. This status does not provide eligibility for citizenship but offers a secure legal status for immigrants. Redemption status offers a longer term pathway, leading to legal permanent residency for those who meet additional criteria such as demonstrating English proficiency and contributing to their communities. After meeting these requirements, individuals can potentially pursue citizenship. The Dignity Plan has garnered support from both Republican and Democrats, but its future in Congress is uncertain due to political gridlock. The bill's success will depend on gaining broad bipartisan support and addressing concern from critics. If passed, the Dignity Plan could become a significant milestone in US immigration reform, providing a fair and just solution for undocumented immigrants while promoting civic responsibility. Its passage would mark a key moment in the conversation about how to handle the millions of undocumented individuals currently living in the US.